Hi, my name is Jim Pendry. Welcome to this video. I've been working with people in health and wellness for almost 40 years. And this is the second video in a series that I'm doing where I'm talking about some of the things that I found that make the biggest impact on how people feel. The first video was about how confusing wellness can be, and for good reason. And this video where I'm talking about the different levels of wellness approaches. So one of the biggest things I've learned over the years is that when it comes to trying to attain wellness or keep wellness, it's not about finding the right product. It's about finding or choosing the right approach. It's a common belief that all wellness products and approaches are trying to help people accomplish the same thing, but this is not the case. The following is a core principle that I was taught over 40 years ago when I was trying to get my own health back. And the reason I mention this is because people often think that wellness can be adjusted or wellness can be boosted in some way. And yes, like there's products that I know I use that I love that always make me feel grounded, make me feel regulated, make my digestion feel good. It's like a reset button that I can push. So it's not as if we don't expect wellness products to change the way we feel, but high level wellness is about going to the cause of the problem. It's the core, it's the foundation that needs to be created. And I know that sounds boring, but it's just the reality. So here is the core principle. Well, there's actually two parts to it. The first one is that the body can heal itself of most things and be self-regulating if it receives the right raw materials. So you might be wondering, what do you mean by that exactly? Well, let's use different examples. If you're someone who identifies with being in a great mood all the time, then you know raw materials matter. If you start eating sugar and drinking lots of coffee and drinking alcohol, those are going to affect your mood, not just that day, but the next day and so on. Now, what if you're someone who identifies with looking young and keeping your youth and being pain free and having all your body parts working, hopefully not on medication, right? To live long and well. Well, then raw materials matter. And what if you're someone who has been hard on their body, haven't taken care of it, or else they've been in accidents, they've broken bones, they've, torn muscles, etc. And they get to the point where they realize, I need to repair this body. I need to take care of myself. I I'm hoping to live, a long time yet. Well, raw materials matter, right? So it always comes down to raw materials. So sometimes people think that genetics are what determines everything. But the saying is about that is that genetics load the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So it's a rough estimate and it's hard to define because there's different conditions and it's matters more for some. But if genetics were responsible for 10 to 20% of your long-term wellness, that means 80 to 90% is responsible from your lifestyle. So all the little things that people do that seem innocent, they all add up. And it's hard just in a quick video to explain all those. And that's why I have a longer version of this video that explains in more depth. And of course, we can always talk personally about it. Now, the second principle of this is that the raw materials must come from whole foods. It's like, so what's a whole food? A whole food is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And so life comes from plants. And wide varieties of whole food in our diet can make a big difference. But there's lifestyle, right? And there's access to the right raw materials. There's research done in some cultures for thousands of years on what diet makes the biggest difference. So there's different levels of nutrition. So we can have a basic salad, we can have a few vitamin pills, right up to highly concentrated nutrition from exotic plants and formulated in a perfect way that can specifically nourish our body and different body systems, right? So there's different levels. Something I like to use as an example sometimes is imagine that you have a box and everything you eat in a week, you match that, open it up, whatever, and you stick it in the box. And at the end of the week, you look in your box, how many things would be in there that you'd be proud of, that you think, yeah, this would probably help my body build strength over time. This would probably help balance my body, make me feel good. And then how many things in that box would you say this has no business being in this box? This would not help me in any way. So sometimes we need to think like that in order to make the shifts that we need. So what are the four different levels of wellness approaches? Well, the first one is vitamins, minerals, and medicinal herbs. So it's estimated that upwards of 50% of the wellness population goes there first because it's common. But if we take a look at vitamins and minerals, they are essential micronutrients. There's 27 of them. We need them. But our body was designed to get them from whole foods. And if we are low, if we have deficiencies in any of them, it's likely due to not eating the adequate diet, wide varieties of whole foods, and there could be a underlying wellness issue. So let's say, for example, of iron deficiency. It's often because of poor digestion, not always, but it has a lot to do with it. So it's always about creating that balance, getting those body systems working and going to the cause of the problem. So that's the philosophy that a person needs to look for if you want high level wellness. Otherwise, we're trying to be the chemist for our own body. We think we know what it needs, but we never know what it needs. It knows what it needs. And if it just receives the right raw materials, like we just mentioned, all of a sudden it starts to work. Now, medicinal herbs are a way of boosting body systems, of supporting body systems. But again, it's not part of a going to the cause of the problem, a foundational nutritional program to nourish and balance and support body systems. So that is our first approach. And as we look at it, is it capable of giving us balance, that really great feeling? Maybe, but it's not going to the cause of the problem. And if you listen to people's words who use vitamins, they usually say something like, well, I take my vitamins every day. I don't know if they're doing anything. And then you'll hear people say, well, it's a good thing I'm taking those vitamins, or I might really feel lousy. And then there's people who are very aware that vitamins make them feel uncomfortable. They might get some nauseous, they might feel nauseous from them. Iron supplement, for example, might feel them like they might have cramps in their digestion. So just this feeling of being off or not quite right can show up. So again, it's not whole food nutrition, but it's a philosophy designed to help people with deficiencies. And medicinal herbs are usually short-term use. So the second one is when we start taking vitamins, minerals, medicinal herbs, and we start putting them together in groups. So now there is larger amounts of them in a product that we purchase. So a very similar philosophy. We're just trying to, they or the companies that sell them are just trying to get more done. The third approach is green powders and basic whole food products. So this is good because people are trying to start getting more whole foods in their diet, but it's usually dehydrated, ground up plants. And so it is better than nothing, but it doesn't have a lot of ability to do major regeneration in the body. So if we just used a contrast of this for a minute, if we took a look at a Chinese doctor, a food master that had studied nutrition and had been passed down for generations, which I'm going to talk about next, which is our fourth approach. But that food master would work with 50, 60, 70, 80 different foods, simmering them in pots and for hours and reducing the amount by boiling off the water, combining them with formulations that have been studied over centuries to create concentrated nutrition that can nourish and strengthen and balance individual body systems, right? A completely different way of looking at nourishing the body and supporting it. Instead of using individual single solutions to try to boost it in some way. So years ago, over 40 years ago, I had lost my health. I was not feeling well at all. And I tried the vitamins and the medicinal herbs and the stacked ingredient products, where there's several, and the green powders. nothing was working for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work for anybody, but it wasn't giving me what I was looking for. So I found a food master and I started eating a basic program foundation, which I'm going to talk about next, of 65 foods that were added into my diet. And it was a game changer for me. Not just that it was nourishing the different body systems, which I noticed right away, but also because it helped with cravings. It helped replace things. It's an all-encompassing program. And it was, as I mentioned, a game changer. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. So the fourth approach is really unique, and I've been touching on it, and it forces us to ask the question, what if nutrition wasn't designed to boost body systems? What if it was designed to allow the body to self-govern so it could create balance and harmony within the body systems, a much higher level of balance and well-being? So this is where the philosophy came from 3,000 years of traditional Chinese medicine, where several generations of practitioners, imagine several generations, 3,000 years of them experimenting on how to make the body live longer, how to make it, keep it well. And so they studied herbs, they experimented with them, they documented everything to try to come up with a system where the body could self-govern and achieve just that, this feeling of well-being overall. So this is where the idea of designed nutrition comes from, a higher level of nutrition. And with modern day technology and further mastery in this area, programs are created that are all encompassing, where every factor has been considered. So the goal is not to push the body. It's to give the body what it needs so it can do what it needs to do. If you'd like to explore these ideas further, you can watch my full presentation or you can watch further videos in this series on my website, jimpendry.com. Thanks.